started here with Sal.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Coach, you got me. I'm sorry about that. Just had to unmute myself.
All right.
All right.
Hey, how you doing, Sal?
I'm good. We just heard from Coach McDermott, who called Matt Milano week to week. Obviously, yesterday he did go out of the game. I believe Terrell came in after that. I know AJ had also played. Can you just kind of tell us about, what he means to your defense, and how important he is, and obviously, that being a loss if you are without him for some time?
Well, he's a very important piece to the puzzle for our defense. A guy who can play effectively against the run, but also is not a mismatch in the passing game. He can match up with most running backs and tight ends, and that's a luxury to have at the linebacker position. And so hopefully he'll be back on the field sooner than later. But if not, between AJ, Terrell, those guys will give us some quality snaps as well.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, John Worrell with the AP.
Hey, John.
How you doing?
Good.
Good. Josh Norman, what did you make of him as you saw him in camp before he got hurt, and maybe even what was going on in Washington in maybe he was put in a different scheme than he was accustomed to, and what do you make of what this guy did yesterday on the field?
Yeah. With the first part of your question, just watching him in training camp and knowing a little bit of the history of what occurred in Washington, I could see, John, that he had a chip on his shoulder when he came here to prove a lot of things to a lot of people, and that's probably going to be good for us. He wants to show people that he can still do it and do it at a high level. And then he got the injury, and he kind of was on the back burner for a little bit. But as he has been working and rehabbing to get back on the field, you can see that energy that he brings. And we saw it yesterday. When Levi went down, for Josh to step in and play as well as he did and then come up with that big punch out, that was huge. And his whole personality really kind of permeates our whole defense. It was really good to see the energy that he brought.
I don't want to say he's a one-dimensional guy, but are there players that maybe better fit schemes better than other schemes? And the fact that he can walk into this system, which is similar to what he had with McDermott in Carolina, with some differences. But do you think that really benefits him in the sense that he's almost as of home?
I would think so. I would think there'd be a certain comfort level, hearing some of the terminology, and then so many familiar faces around him as well. So, but yeah, for sure, certain schemes fit certain players better than others. And Josh had a ton of success in this scheme, and so I could see it, really benefiting his style of play.
Thank you very much, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Yes, good afternoon, Leslie. George Radney, Challenger Community News. A question, Norman made an excellent comment last night after the game that he said the defensive guys got to have the juice within themselves. They got to get them own selves up and motivated on the field, because without having fans, it's really strange. And I was just thinking, do you think that might be a reason why the scores are so high in all of these games around the league? Because the defense seems to be suffering more without the fan participation?
Yeah, I've heard that mentioned a few different times, and someone mentioned to me that a week ago, I think it was the highest point total in the history of the league. So, yeah, I got to believe it's a factor. To what degree, it's hard to say, but you do miss the energy of the fans when you make a big play on defense, especially when you're at home, and the noise that it can create, so offenses can't just operate like it's practice. You do miss that. But this is where we are in 2020. It's just far different. So you don't have that fan energy. So you do have to bring it, but you still miss the noise factor that you would get from your fans when a big play would occur. And that makes a difference. You derive a little bit from that energy.
Exactly. And last but not least, do you still receive calls from Mr. John Wooten? I know Mr. Wooten is retired, but I know it's probably hard for him not to pick up the phone and call you and the other guys around the league.
I absolutely still do, whether it be an email or text or a phone call. Yes, I still do, for sure.
All right. Hey, thank you very much. Have a great week coming up.
Thank you, George.
Hey, Leslie, John Scott, good to see you. Sean had
Hey, John.
mentioned that you really started dialing it up a little more, especially fourth quarter yesterday. What led to that decision to increase the pressure?
We wanted as much as we could, John, to try to affect this quarterback, and we were doing it on occasions, but not consistent enough. So, we had to change the strategy up a little bit and do some things that would hopefully get us going a little bit more. And our players responded and did a really great job in creating those takeaways, which something we talk about all the time and how big of a difference it makes in a ball game. And it was really good to see how the guys responded.
Harrison had mentioned late last week that he thinks maybe the lack of OTAs and the time, especially with the defensive line together, is kind of hurting things early on because the right combinations are still trying to be figured out. Is that accurate, that you're still trying to figure out, as deep as you guys go up there, who is best suited to go with who?
Yeah, there are certain things that you just can't duplicate in practice, and to really learn how guys are going to handle game situations until you put them in those situations. And so we're going through that a little bit, and we were talking earlier last week that, okay, we feel like we're past the preseason now. That was, after the third game, that now we can kind of start honing in on, what our identity is going to be. And so there's still a little bit of a learning curve going on with our guys, probably throughout the league, with under the circumstances that we came into the regular season with. So, but everybody's going through the same thing.
Sorry, just a real quick follow-up. You mentioned to try to figure out your identity. What is your identity as a defense right now?
I think it really doesn't change for us. We want to be a defense that really attacks the line of scrimmage, and the whole goal is to stop the run and make people one-dimensional so they can't be balanced. And as long as we have that mindset, along with taking the football away, that's the identity we want to be able to create. It's going to be hard for you to run against the Buffalo Bills defense. We're going to find ways to take the football away, and we're going to be an attack-oriented defense. That should be our identity.
Thanks, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, you just spoke to the identity of this defense and stopping the run and making them one-dimensional. How do you evaluate the run defense from yesterday, holding Josh Jacobs to 48 rushing yards, especially with another talented running back coming up this week in Derrick Henry?
Well, man, I tell you, going into the game, and we had a ton of respect for Jacobs and what he had achieved, and we still do. He's a very good running back, and they've got a really good offensive line. The largest offensive line in the National Football League. So we felt like we had our work cut out for us defending their run game and not allowing them to be a balanced offense. And fortunately for us, we did a really good job of neutralizing the run game. I think, like you said, Josh finished with 48 yards total for the day, and that's a big accomplishment. And so now you put it in the quarterback's hand and you live with what happens there, but you don't let them become balanced. And so just appreciate our guys for getting the job done in that area, and that really helped us to be successful yesterday.
Thanks, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, Matt Perino here. You guys have set such a high standard over the last 3 years with how well you've played on defense. And, when things kind of don't go well early on this season with the expectations so high, I feel like fans are real quick to push the panic button. And I watch, Tre'Davious White at times even, he almost seems like, oh, man, another third down we gave up or another play we gave up. What do you say to the guys on the sideline that kind of push through kind of some of these struggles early on?
Well, that's exactly what we try to do, Matt. Just push through and not dwell on what just happened the previous play. You got to line up and get ready for the next play. That's how our league is. And if you can self-correct during the course of a game, you have a much better chance of improving as the game goes on rather than, staying in that rut and playing that play over and over again. And here comes another play. And the next thing you know, you have no chance to recover. So we always talk to our guys about being able to push through and play the next play and move on from the previous play.
And Ed Oliver, he seemed to really charge you guys up a little bit coming out of halftime, made that big play, and then made a couple big plays. And it seemed like almost that kind of snowball effect. A lot of guys were making plays on the defensive line in the second half. Did you think that was their best half of football this year?
Oh, yeah. And that's what it takes sometimes. It only takes maybe one play, and that goes back to what George was asking about earlier, difference without the fans and with the fans. Sometimes one play can turn the momentum of the game. And Ed's fourth down tackle that was a stop for us to create, which really becomes like a takeaway or turnover on defense when you stop a team on fourth down. That was huge and really energized our entire defense, our entire sideline. So sometimes it takes that, just one play to energize everybody.
Thanks, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Hi, Leslie. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I wanted to know when you went back and watched, what you saw of Daryl Johnson. I know he had the sack and was creating some pressure. What did you see from him yesterday?
I thought Daryl did a good job for us yesterday in his limited snaps. Really, whenever he's gotten on the field, you're able to see that this is a guy that is on the come. I mean, he's developing, and he has some qualities and some traits that you really like in a defensive end. So we got to keep bringing him along. But that sack that he had, that was a big time play for us to be able to stop a third down. We were struggling on third down, so. We just got to, give him a few more steps and give him opportunities. He's doing a great job on special teams from what Heath was telling me as well. So he's a guy that we got to just keep bringing along.
And I wanted to ask you, Sean mentioned after the game that during training camp, you and he and Brian Dable were all kind of working together to give Josh Allen a lot of different looks during training camp and, I don't know, try to make practice as hard as a game might be. The way he's playing, in some ways, to a lot of people, has come out of nowhere. What do you make of it? And did you see any hints that he was capable of this? The way he's played through a month when you guys were putting the test to him in camp.
Yeah, I could actually see it just watching the way he practiced, and Sean told you exactly what happened. We just tried to make things as difficult as possible for Josh in practice, and you could see the growth as we were going through it. I was talking to our quarterbacks coach, Kenny, and he had come in my office doing training camp and just picking my brain on some things about looks and so on. And we were going back and forth on what could we do from a defensive standpoint to help Josh in practice. And as time went on, you could just see the growth and development, and it's carried over to the season. So I'm not surprised. And I told Kenny this at the end of training camp. I told him I saw the growth and saw the improvement as well. And now he's taking it into the regular season.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.
All right. That's all we got. Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.